What is going on, guys? Welcome to Test This Deck, and today we are reviewing the Pupgsis T12 gaming audio mixer and seeing if it is better than the Maono Caster G1 Neo. First impressions. So it's funny. It's a love-hate relationship with this device. To me, the worst thing about this already is the headphone amp. Headphone amp is terrible. It's just as bad as on the G1 Neo, if not a little worse. I'm going to say a little worse. I don't remember it being as reverberant. So really bad latency on this. It's a little disappointing. Is it like terrible? Is it one of those things where it's not usable? No, but it is kind of an annoying thing in general. So I don't know why nobody talks about it, at least that I've seen so far in like Amazon reviews or whatnot, but headphone amp is really bad. It's kind of weird because there's 3 different headphone mic controls on this, right? So there's even a second headphone section for 2 people to plug in headphones on this, right? So if you have a Zoom call, you can have people plug in their headphones into this, wire it up and Zoom, and there's 2 slots here for microphones, right? So there's the one microphone slot. This is the headset channel. So you would think you would want to invest in a really solid headphone amp in here with no latency, but they did not. So I don't know if I can reach here. The cable is really short as well. So I know this doesn't do much for you, but the cable's really short, unfortunately. So I would have to swap the cable out for you guys to even see it, but it looks like this. But one thing I found interesting is that I do like the screen as far as for the moving of the monitoring, really solid. I don't see that on other cheap gaming mixers, so that is a huge plus, I think. I have my headset, as you can see, plugged into this. Interesting about this is that this has its separate channel or separate line from the standard XLR combo mic, because for the Maono Caster, it was within the same channel. The headset has its own separate channel. It's also considered mic 2, under the mic 2 channel as well. The mute is instant, so it doesn't fade out and fade in like the Maono Caster G1 Neo. Once you tap on that button, it mutes you. There is Bluetooth as well. I'm very curious to see how good it is. So let's test that actually and see if it is any good. The good thing is that Pupgsis does show up. It does show up when you're searching for it. So that is nice, because sometimes a lot of these really cheap sound cards, they don't have a registered name. So when you're looking for it, you're looking for like unknown device, which is really weird. And also an indication that you probably shouldn't buy that type of device. All right, so it is connected via Bluetooth. I'm going to play a song in here to see how it sounds. Let's see here. This is a beat I made on my PO33. All right, I just muted myself, so that's why you didn't hear me. I'm gonna try the ducking while the music is on. All right, so this is my, whoa, it really ducks. It ducks really hard. So for the Maono Caster, it side chains it, but you can still kind of hear it. For this one, it just turns the volume all the way down when it comes to the ducking motion. So the ducking is really aggressive on this. I kind of like the Maono Caster G1 Neo sidechain a little better, just because it's nice to hear a little bit of that music. So for example, it's still in the ducking mode. You probably thought I muted it. I didn't, so check it out. So again, I don't know if you can hear it. I can barely hear it if I'm talking. So it does the job. It kind of stops almost, but I kind of like the Meonocaster G1 Neo sidechain a little more, just because it's nice to hear a little bit of it, but for the mix to be sharper. So there's that. And then the buttons work well as far as for the mute. So they all have a dedicated mute, which is nice. So you have a mic 1, mic 2, also a headset, auxiliary Bluetooth, and a line out, which is like your speaker out, which I don't know why you would want to have a speaker on a gaming mixer, but that's a story for another day. Maybe if you're doing like side recording or something, I don't know. But there's a pad motion as well. So for the pad, I'm assuming like if I'm talking really loudly, you know what? That's actually not a bad. This is actually a nice feature. So the pad basically, if I'm talking really loud, the pad, obviously a pad is supposed to suppress the loudness. So if I have pad on, the pad is engaged right now. So here, I'm gonna turn it on. So I mean, I don't know if it's working. I don't know if the pad is actually doing it. I know I'm talking really fast. So the pad is engaged right now. So I don't know if it's reduced the audio into a degree. I want to say the pad is going to act like a screen guard or a gain guard or what have you. So kind of interesting. I'm not sure if it's actually doing its purpose or not. And I will switch to a traditional XLR microphone too. I just want to go through these settings. It does have 4 customizable sounds here. So you just press hold it, and then I believe you just play the song into it. But yeah, and then the music seems like it works fine. I think the headphone right now, the headphone is the worst thing here. There is a reverb setting. So if you want to have reverb like this, you'll sound like this. There is a loopback function. It has a separate button, so you don't have to press and hold it. For the Meonocaster G1 Neo, there was direct monitoring, and if you press and held it, loopback showed up. So this has a separate button, so that's kind of cool. As far as for the design for where all the buttons are, it's pretty smart, right? So from a functionality basis, I think it does make a lot of sense. And I think there's a lot more gain on this than the G1 Neo. I like the active monitoring with the LEDs. It seems like there's more gain in the device. I like the separate mutes. I like that they all have separate channels except for, the mic, headset, and Bluetooth. But it used to be where all 3 of those things were into one channel for the G1 Neo. So while the G1 Neo maybe looked a little more stylish, there was a lot of audio going into that one channel. So this one, you have a little more autonomy to mix it appropriately. So that I do appreciate. I'm going to switch now to a traditional XLR. Let's see if I can use the good old K688, since I was talking trash about how folks review microphones and never use them. So I'm going to switch now to the K688 XLR mode so we can see how it sounds through that. What's up, guys? Now I have the K688. It is in XLR mode, and I have it plugged into the Pupgsis, of course. And again, the headphone amp, it's just really frustrating. It's really frustrating. I feel like I'm like talking in a bathroom almost, as far as for the reverberance, really bad. So, but this is how it sounds. Hope it sounds pretty good after listening back to this. But this is the XLR. Seems like it's giving me a pretty healthy output. Again, this is supposed to project to 60 gigabyte of dB, or 60 dB of gain. I think that's about the same as the G1 Neo. I'm not 100% certain, but I feel like this has more gain. Like this is like halfway, and it's already like on the edge of clipping, or at the end of it before that. So, yeah. So, yeah. The biggest issue is the monitoring. Everything else from a functionality basis works fine. I like this design better. I'm curious how the Bluetooth sounds, if it sounds just as good as the G1 Neo. I like the pad, the pad option. I think the pad option is pretty smart, especially for a gamer who's yelling and stuff and laughing like I am a lot and messing up my own audio. The pad is supposed to help with that, which I think is a genius thing. So this is designed better, more on a practical basis than the G1 Neo, but the headphone amp is really bad. It's arguably slightly worse. And for there to be three different ways to plug in your your headphones, whether it be the headset option or the one of the two headphone amps on the front, that they really should have invested. They could have charged an extra $50 for this device, and it would be worth it, especially if the headphone monitoring was solid. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys have this, the Pupgsis T12, let me know what your thoughts are. Is it worth $37? I mean, it does a lot. It does more than most for $37. There's a lot of really cheap garbage on Amazon. I would say if it's $27, it's a steal. $37, I don't know. You might be better off getting the G1 Neo. The headphone amp is just a little better, and it kind of goes a long way. But this has the pad option if you plug in your headset. That is pretty cool for $37. It has all the same functions, and it has 3 additional channels. It's a coin toss. It depends on what you're doing, what you're using this for. If you're using this for gaming, I would say this makes more sense, probably. If you're doing podcasting, perhaps the G1 Neo. And I know they both are kind of like supposed to be game streaming mixers. I feel like this makes more sense from how this is designed. But all right, guys. So one more video here, or one more scene clip here for this review for the Pupgsis T12. I just pulled out another microphone just to kind of close out everything, because I did listen to it again. I listened to watch the video and everything. And I must say, well, first and foremost, I forgot that my compressor filter was on an OBS. So my apologies there. So this is actually the dry raw sound from the Pupgsis, just cable microphone into the mixer. There's no additional filters here on here. There's no additional, audio adjustments or anything like that. So, and this is a capsule from an XM8500 I put into a ZDM1. Don't ask me why. I'm just crazy. And I did realize that technically I can turn off the mic monitoring. So if the mic monitoring is that frustrating to you, which it was for me, you can turn the mic monitoring off and hear everything else. So that is a plus, right? That is a plus, because I don't think there's an option like that you have for the Manocaster G1 Neo. I think you just have to deal with it for that one, because the headphone amp on that isn't the best. It's technically a little better than the Pupgsis, but the headphone monitoring is so bad to me. I would prefer just to turn it off, but I can still hear everything else. So that kind of gives me one leg up for the Pupgsis over the Manocaster G1 Neo. Listening back, what am I trying to say here? Listening back, the audio sounds really good. I actually like the headset amp when I put it on my headset. I think it sounds better in the Pupgsis than the G1 Neo. G1 Neo kind of has a a little more of a high-end piercing sound. This seems to be more of a natural sound through that headset. And there's the pad option there where, it's going to help prevent clipping when you're really high in the gain there. Obviously, when it comes to the fader, or the slider, if you will, you have to be conservative on that. But aside from that, I think this is designed a lot smarter than the G1 Neo. G1 Neo is probably a little more stylish, but I do like the active monitoring, as I've mentioned. I first thought you just turn it, you just select it, and it's not actually actively monitoring. It's actively monitoring on all the channels. It's doing that. There's a mute for all the channels. There's 3 additional 3 separate channels, versus all 3 into 1, like I mentioned before. You can turn the mic monitoring off. The mic monitoring is the worst thing about this device, but if you turn the mic monitoring off, everything is pretty solid. So, I know I said, if it's $27, it'd be worth it. I think it's worth it at the price that it is right now. I think it's actually a really solid price. I just wish they would fix the headphone amps on this, because they could charge an extra $50 and it would be worth it because it's designed really well. And in which the ducking wasn't as aggressive. I wish you can choose like you want aggressive or do you want light, and it still side chains it. And maybe sidechain and ducking are two different things. I figure they're the same thing. They're just two different names. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But yeah, I say this is a good buy. This is a good buy. I would probably mute my monitoring. But other than that, it's good. It's good. So Pupgsis, kudos to you. Kudos to you. So again, J Music. Catch you guys next video. Thanks a lot.